Hello and good morning. My name is Steve Pugh. It is 8:59 here in the UK. It is Friday the 23rd of April. I made a special effort to make sure I didn't get the date wrong this week. And my name is Steve Pugh, and every week I try and do a live Q&A session, which I rarely do encourage people to get involved with, talk about in the chat. I'd love to know both where you're from. Last week we had someone from Dubai, which was fantastic. But we have people from all around the world now that follow the content, follow the business course, which is the Roadmap MBA. And what I try to do every week is either answer questions which have come in either from the classroom sessions, which we do every Tuesday. You are more than welcome to join these, and I'll talk about them a bit later on. And basically what we do with the actual kind of Roadmap MBA course, which is, the book itself is 216 pages. But there's 14 modules of real world content to help you make that next step in your business or career. And it's all really kind of good stuff. And every Tuesday, we have classroom sessions which people can join onto, and we run through the different modules. We actually repeat each one twice because we respect that people have diaries and clashes and stuff so that you never kind of miss out. And then likewise, 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world, you can send in questions to questions@roadmapmba.com. And then what I do on our Friday kind of sessions is answer them. So in previous weeks, you would have seen much more of the whiteboard, and I draw stuff out and we go through various different concepts. This week, just to do with some stuff that was kind of going on in the world, what I thought I would do is talk about some different things which hopefully are of interest. And actually, one of them is Cuthbert or Colin the Caterpillar, and it's the major thing that's been going on with Marks and Spencer's and Aldi this week. We also had some recent announcements from Apple. They launched a new product called AirTags, which I'm going to talk about. But also, I always talk about this thing called the ecosystem. It's almost that if you're looking to build your business product or service, the more you can actually build flexibility into that and actually grow it over time. It's that I'm particularly going to talk about more than the kind of product itself, but both why it's quite clever. Next, I'm actually going to talk about something that came up from the classroom session on Tuesday, and it was all about the skills that people look for in business partners, from investors, in jobs and employees and that kind of thing. And one thing in particular, all to do with leadership, came up, so I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes. And then last but not least, actually, I'm going to talk about running shoes. These are some of mine, so these are Nike Air Pegasus 37s, I think. But actually, one of the things that came through my door this week was actually a brochure from a running shoe distributor who sell all different types of shoes. But what was really fascinating when I went through it was that they all had exactly the same price, or at least in the same price band. And it was how people were then looking to differentiate themselves within that band. And I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about, because often we do overcomplicate our businesses and who we are and what we do. So there we go, so we're on 9:02. Please feel free to comment in the chat, and I'd love to kind of get involved and get your thoughts. And then I'm going to jump into the first kind of case study, which is on Colin. But before I do, on Monday last week, I did the first interview in a few weeks, which was with a chap called Tim Ward, who's a really fantastic guy who has a new business called Opportunity. And what they did was that they raised venture capital money built on a really tried and trusted and true concept, which they've been working on, or Tim's been working on for years. But what I try and do is introduce you to and pick the brains of people that have real world businesses that aren't Richard Branson, they're not Bill Gates, but actually it's people that hopefully you can relate to, with the idea being that you can learn from their story, learn from their journey, actually, just get to know a bit more of kind of people within the network. But the hope is it gives you real inspiration and the thought that actually if they can do it, I can do it too. So on Monday this week, I've got a chap called Ian Farrer. So Ian runs multiple businesses. He's got lots of fingers in lots of kind of different pies. But actually, one of the things he's really best known for is called the Industry Angel podcast. So Ian got into podcasting years and years before everyone else did. I think it was back in 2016, which actually is 5 kind of years ago. But actually, so what I'm going to do is pick Ian's brains about his career, everything he's been through so far, the whole kind of caboodle. But actually, yeah, we're going to talk about podcasting as well. Really great guy, should be a really interesting podcast and thing to talk about. And that'll be 4 p.m. on Monday across all the kind of usual channels, and you'll probably see it on here as well. But you've got YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and all of the others as well. So, with it being Friday morning, I always try and have a coffee, because I joke that it's both the best and the worst time in the week to do this, because it's the best time because actually I find I actually have some breathing space when I've kind of got all my client work done. But likewise, because it's Friday and you've had a really long week, often, you do need a coffee to kind of wake yourself up. And I'm human as well. So, please forgive me if I take a sip every so often. Oh. So I thought it might be a really interesting case study just to talk about this whole Colin the Caterpillar, Cuthbert the Caterpillar fiasco, media storm, social media viral sensation this week. And essentially, if you haven't seen this, what came down to is that in the UK, you have lots of different supermarkets. Marks and Spencer's have been established for 120 plus years, very kind of prestigious. They position themselves at like the premium end of the market. And they obviously have a range of novelty cakes, as a lot of kind of food manufacturers and supermarkets do as well. There was a court case and it went to the High Court. At least they launched an intellectual property claim in the High Court against Aldi for copying their design, their trademarks. And actually what was quite funny is that it created such a storm because some people viewed it as being massively overkill from Marks and Spencer's. What's the big deal? It's just a cake. But actually I can see both sides of it. So what I wanted to do was talk about it today to kind of just, I thought it was interesting. So what was quite interesting, so supermarkets sell products in the same way that any business sells a product or a service. The more intellectual property that you believe your product has, and that could be offshore energy equipment, which is a lot of my kind of background, but it could be cakes, it could be design rights, it could be anything. There is always a balance between, as a company, how do you protect it? Should you protect it? And then what's the best course of action to take? Both from a moral, legal standpoint, which there might be letters of the law, what is correct, what is not correct to do. But then you also almost have to make a commercial decision on, is it worth chasing? Is it worth following up? But then actually largely to do with this one, there's a massive PR angle to it as well, which I'm going to kind of talk through. So Marks and Spencer's launched this injunction in the High Court to basically ask Aldi to, or demand Aldi remove the product from the shelves and actually never sell similar products in the future. Aldi actually responded, and I'll touch on it in a second, at some social media. And actually it really started to play out, but it was on TV. And again, M&S really took the stance of, we're a prestigious brand, we've done this for a long time, we need to protect our intellectual property. And in their social media where a lot of this played out, they claimed we're the original, we're the best. That was their whole kind of point. Aldi replied, they kind of got all the other supermarkets together and tried to say, look, everyone's doing this, free Cuthbert. And again, what was quite funny is how both the social media teams for all the supermarkets jumped on it and really kind of made it a thing, which is great PR and great publicity. But likewise, I think someone within Aldi would have actually thought, you know what, we have been caught out here. Aldi do have form for copying other people's products. A few years ago, they did Brewdog, which is a bespoke beer kind of brand, all to do with IPAs and kind of that kind of thing, craft beers. And Aldi actually copied one of their designs, one of their IPAs, to the point where it was that bad and that blatant. Brewdog had the decision, which I think they played very well, is that they knew if they were to compete in the courts against such a big company, it would cost them a lot of money, it'd take a lot of time, and actually would they necessarily be better off because of it? So what Brewdog did in that instance was actually to launch their own new brand, ripping off Aldi, if that makes sense. And so my point is that Aldi have form for actually doing this and actually ripping off other people's products in the past. But what someone would have thought, actually, this company, obviously Marks and Spencer's now, not Brewdog, have taken it a lot more seriously and caused the High Court injunction to kind of basically take the product off the shelves. So what was quite clever in some ways is that someone would have made the decision to say, actually, look, how do we get out of this? But actually, how do we get some press off the back of it as well? So one of the things that they did, they tweeted out, how about we call it quits? All the money that we save through not getting the lawyers involved, we'll donate to charity, etc. Morning, Simon, as always. I was waiting to see if you were going to pop up, but thank you for joining me. And actually what Aldi have tried to do, which is actually quite clever, is to change the narrative, change the public perception away from, to diffuse their legal battle, which they probably would lose because it's blatant what they've kind of done, and almost steer it in terms of get public opinion on side to make people think badly of Marks and Spencer's in terms of actually they're pursuing something which doesn't really matter, and instead of doing that, should they donate the money to charity? And what I just thought was a really interesting moral dilemma, because actually I can see it from both sides. If you're Marks and Spencer's, you need to protect your products, but to the point where often what this does, it sends a message to everyone else that if you infringe their intellectual property or design rights or products or whichever, they will come after you. And almost it's a way that, although this one actually, in terms of PR, has swung actually more in favour of Aldi. Aldi are now seen as more favourable than Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's have gone down in people's estimations and kind of brand value. But what's interesting is that they've also put a flag in the sand for the next 10 years, 5 years, to say, look, if you copy our products, we will come after you in the court, which is actually quite a clever thing to do. Aldi are trying to get out of it by using social media and public opinion, because again, people, a lot of the general public just think it's just a cake, but what's the big deal? I think they're trying to get out of it by using clever social media with the whole free Cuthbert thing. But I would love to know your comments. Are you team M&S? Are you team Aldi? What's your viewpoint on it? And actually it'd be interesting to see how this plays out, because Marks and Spencer's could continue the legal case, but obviously that'll have significant cost to it, and it could actually have future brand impact. Aldi are kind of on the roller coaster. They've got form for it. Hopefully that they might learn the lesson that they can't just copy other people's products, but maybe that's their whole thing, that they don't care. But actually they could also take the view of the longer this runs, the more publicity they get, which actually could be worth a lot more than the cost of the court case. And I guarantee there will be someone somewhere having that discussion about how this plays out. But I would love to know your opinion on free Cuthbert, free Colin, the whole kind of thing. In some ways it's silly, but in some ways it's really important. But then likewise, almost one of the lessons to learn is that for any company, you always have the discussions, when I talk to my clients about patents and patent rights, the worry always is that you have different companies and places around the world that are known to copy. China is one of them. But then likewise, if a major multi-billion-pound company blatantly infringes your patent rights, etc., and this has been known to happen, could you actually almost fight it? Because they would just outmuscle you in the courts. They would make you go bust in the point that they win. So there's always the balance on patents and IP and stuff on what's the best way to do. And actually, just kind of thinking out loud, is that one of the things I'm going to start to do is interview and talk to people. So these won't be live, they'll just be pre-recorded, basically experts on different topics. So one could be on immigration, employment law, one could be on patents, might do one on app development, etc. But it's really trying to share the knowledge and almost people that you could speak to if this ever comes up. So I just thought it was an interesting kind of case study to talk about. Okay, so 9:13. I always find it funny how easily your voice can start to go when you just start talking for 10 minutes straight, but it is what it is. And I hope everyone has fantastic plans for the weekend. I'd love to know again what you're up to, if you're going to work on your personal development and stuff this week. Or likewise, if you've got any questions to do with anything else, please kind of either drop them in the chat or send me an email as well. So the next one I wanted to talk about is a product that Apple have just launched. So bear in mind, I am an Apple fanboy. I have iMacs, I have MacBook Pros, I have the watch, I've got the phone, I have a lot of different stuff. And one of the things that I always find funny is that when I talk to companies about making sure that their business strategy is as good as possible, one of the things that I always talk about is making sure that you have an ecosystem. So it's always great to have one hero product, which for Apple is actually the iPhone. The number of iPhones that they sell is just ridiculous. But you have one particular product, which is the main thing that you push, and that's your main kind of revenue driver. But actually, if you can find complementary offers which either improve that or fall into the ecosystem that work with one another, it allows you to have your main market entry point, which for many people is the phone, it could be the Mac computer, whichever. And actually, if you can build products or services which integrate together, which are fairly exclusive, it gives you extra ways to drive revenue and sell more stuff to more people. So with the launch of Apple AirTags this week, I actually thought this was quite clever. So what are they? There are these little kind of coin-sized discs which you can use to locate products, your keys, your bag, your phone. Actually, it could be your phone if you attached it to it. But the idea is it solves the common problem of losing stuff. There are other companies that have tried to do something like this. Like there's a company called Tile, which I think use a range of Bluetooth and different things. And Apple with this, what they're doing is actually using their mobile network, everyone else's iPhone, the data, so that actually if you have your AirTag on your keys and you leave the keys on a bus, both in terms of a large area, and you can actually, there's an app on your phone which has been there for years to help track to a general location how to find, so you might find within 50 square meters of where your keys are. But the new technology uses a new chip, which is actually only on the iPhone 11 and newer, which allows you to within like centimeters to actually find the thing. So what this product does, it does have a niche in the market. They sell for $29 for one or $99 for four. I think most people will go for the $99. But say with that one, you only actually get the disc. So when you get the disc, which has the functionality, you then need the accessories to then attach it to your belt or your keys or your bag or whichever. So it's a very clever way to the entry points to look. It's a good idea, and I was tempted to buy them. It's actually, the price point is reasonable. The choosing $29 is a low enough price that actually I would pay that. But then you kind of rationalize it, and then the $99, you think, well, actually I'd pay that as well because it seems better value, which in many ways it is. But they've actually got you in at the 29, which is kind of quite clever. But when I realized when I did my homework that actually you need the iPhone 11 or newer, I still rock an iPhone 10, which is almost 4 years old now. So actually these don't apply to me. But what it does do is, because I like the ecosystem, I use Apple Music, which is one of their subscription kind of services. They've kind of got me tied in, but actually I don't mind. My point was just to kind of emphasize the idea that if you have a product or service, so for instance, I always like to try and relate it back to me, because this whole thing is about using practical, real information that you could implement yourself. So my hero product for the next 5 years will be the Roadmap MBA. It's what I class as a real-world business course that I've hopefully priced very well for what you kind of get and who you compete against. But there will still be spin-offs and different services and consultancy that you can build an ecosystem around. But my point is, I just wanted to explain the way that you can also do that for yourself. So if you're a copywriter, you might have one service that is your core product, but actually what other pain points do your customers have that you could solve? Apple, in this case, it was all to do with losing stuff. And actually, was there a clever way to interact with that, which I thought was quite useful. But yeah, the question is, do you really need them? Probably not, but regardless. On Tuesday, and every Tuesday, and actually I do these via Zoom. I don't want to overkill people with live streams, and also it gives the better kind of interactivity. We have interactive classroom sessions where we go through the whole Roadmap MBA, module by module. We're starting to build a really kind of good community where people talk about where they're at and how they see different challenges, and actually it helps me improve some of the different things. And with module 2, so module 1 is all about how it's to set your aims, goals and ambitions, because actually for any business or anyone's career, if you don't have a distinct goal you're aiming towards, it's very difficult to achieve, because you really need to kind of build the roadmap in that kind of general direction. Hi Nabil, thank you for getting in touch. I'd love to know where in the world you're from. Please kind of drop a thing in the message. Simon, I know where you're from. But in the classroom sessions, yeah, so module 1 is all about your aims, goals and ambitions, and really trying to understand different motivations, what they are, and actually how to kind of capture that and use it so that when we then teach the skills to help you grow your business or career, it'll be a lot more successful. But module 2 is actually to do with the skills that employers seek, but the same is true for investors, business partners, etc., customers. And we were talking it through, and we were asking the guys for good examples of when they've seen great kind of decision making or flexibility or leadership and creativity. But one of the things which came up when I was talking to Metz, who joins my week 1 crew with the West Area recruitment guys, but it's open to everyone. What I wanted to make sure, because I kind of flagged it with him, is that people often view leadership as head of a company on a stage talking about stuff, making tough decisions, etc., which is true, and that's a kind of key important part of it. But leadership also is demonstrated in so many different ways that I just wanted to do a quick kind of 2 minutes to talk about it. And leadership, again, is you're in a team of people. You can tell that someone is a bit down, they're not quite being themselves. It's asking them if they're okay. It's making people feel comfortable in a group scenario where actually you bring them into the conversation, you look after them. That is all really kind of good leadership traits. And all these things build trust and they build credibility and that kind of thing. But my point was, it was something that came out on the course to the point where for version 2, I'm going to kind of rewrite it, was actually the thought of, it's to make sure people understand that you can be a leader at any level of an organization. It's how you act, it's what you say, it's how you look after other people. And one of the big ones for me, it's how you act when nobody else is looking as well, is a really kind of good trait. So even if you are an apprentice in a new business, you're 16, 17, starting out from scratch, you can still be a leader in that business just through how you act and what you do. That actually, I thought it was a really important thing, because actually, hopefully it's quite empowering that almost even on LinkedIn or YouTube, within your kind of social network, if you can tell that someone needs a little lift or, you know, a pat on the back or whichever, you can do that. And it's that kind of thing that you can help other people. You know, often some people only think of leadership as people on stages and that kind of thing. We're actually going to repeat this session this Tuesday coming up. The link to join the Zoom call is on the front page of the Roadmap MBA website, so that's roadmapmba.com. You are more than welcome to join, and even if you don't have the textbook, I bring stuff up on the screen and we talk it through, and then if you're lucky, I might send you one out as well. But no, I would love it if you kind of join us, and yeah, these are going to run basically forever, but the course runs through until October, and you can join as and when around your own kind of stuff whenever you wish to. Okay, next one. So what I always try and do is give you everything I try and do. I try and make it real world in terms of it's real stuff that you can implement today, or something happens in our real world that you try and react to. So you had Colin and Cuthbert the Caterpillar happen this week. The AirTags were launched this week. But actually, this brochure came through my door at home this week. And what was quite interesting is that my wife is a better runner than I am, but we both kind of run. And actually, so this came through from sportshoes.com. And what it was, if you flick through, it says no fun standing still on the back. And actually what it's got is a series of adverts, which is essentially what they are, for different brands. And what was interesting was that on the inside page, you have a double page spread with ASICs, and these trainers are £120. Next one was Nike. The more expensive, 170. Then you had Saucony, 120. And what was quite funny is that on every single spread, all of these customers are selling exactly the same thing, running shoes, at exactly the same price. Yes, there's a band, but actually what it got me interested in is that when you actually go through them all, what each company has to do is differentiate itself with the same product, arguably the same price, and within one sentence. And I thought it was a really interesting concept that when you then look at your own business or etc., we often always try and overcomplicate our messages, and I could be guilty of this too, that actually the concept of if you had to distill down into one sentence what makes you different and why should people buy your product, I thought it was a really interesting exercise to do. So one of the big things that I've also noticed is if you take the next page, you have the one sentence for each product, which is fine, it's kind of functional, but it's the branding behind it. So for instance, that chap there is almost a trail adventure runner. There's snow in the background, and he's obviously very happy and active. As well, if you look at some of the Nike stuff, it's a guy on the road, it's more performance. But what they're then doing is actually differentiating the brand with the imagery that they use. And again, the imagery is arguably more important than the actual words, if that makes sense. And it's something that we cover in the course, but actually it's really important to, when you're doing your promotion, and especially if you're going to get either professional photography done or stock footage, etc., really think about the brand. What is it that you want to portray, and what are your differentiators versus your competition, and how can you show that in images as well as in one sentence? And it was just something that I thought was really interesting to kind of talk about. For me, these are actually my shoes, which I kind of brought up before. So I bought these about 2 months ago. So I've had Nike trainers and running shoes and basketball shoes for years. I'm a size 11. And actually, I ordered these running shoes you're meant to replace every, I don't know, X 100 miles, because the cushioning goes and you don't want to kind of damage yourself. But the thing that got me, so these were custom made, Nike ID, and they've got my name on, and actually they've got Kipchoge's 1:59.40, which was his world record breaking time on the back. But the point is, I got to choose and customize the sole, the layout, the design, everything. And again, that can be a really good way to differentiate your product or service, is customization. So for consultants, you're inherently customizing everything. But actually, you know, for me, one of the long-term goals for the roadmap would be to actually be able to customize the covers. And it's all the little things that add up, which add real value to people, that, you know, you could consider as well. Hi, Joro. I know where you're from. You're in Lagos in Nigeria. I was asking the guys to comment where in the world they're from. But this is one of the things that I've really enjoyed, actually, is that when in the course we talk about something called lead actions, which is how when you identify the things which will help you achieve your goal. So in sales, it could be how many phone calls you make, etc., etc. One of the big things for me when I'm launching the roadmap is my live streams. And actually, it's just getting people almost comfortable with me and what I'm trying to do, and almost me as a person. That yes, it might not be perfect, and yes, it could still be get better over time. But I just want people to know that I'm committed and I try my best, and actually I try and add value every week. So, for instance, I've noticed most weeks that I just get a few more viewers and interaction each week, which is really important to me as well. But no, Ajuro, thank you. And actually, I'm going to assume that you're still watching. I'd love to get you on as a guest on my interview series as well. So if you're up for it, just mention yes underneath, and if not, I'll drop you a DM. And what I think would be really interesting to talk about is to talk about Ojimi, but actually just your business in general, because a lot of the people I speak to at the moment with the interview series are all in Europe, one in the US, but I'd love to start talking to people in Nigeria and South Africa, and I might get some of the other board members on as well. And actually, I really do want this to be accessible for everyone. So cool, hopefully we'll get the chance to catch up. Sanat, this is hilarious because actually Sanat won't know, but I was planning to actually reach out to you as well if you'd love to be a guest. So Sanat, I used to play basketball with, really great guy, very honest and etc. Also got a great business mind on him, and he's based in Bangalore in India. And Sanat, no joke, I was planning to reach out to you to see if you would also like to be a guest on the live stream, because it's, you know, it's important for me to kind of catch up. But actually, I think you've got a really good story to tell as well. That plus, I think it's India and Papua New Guinea have the highest Google search rates for alternative MBAs in the world, which is an ulterior motive, but it's still true. But I would love to kind of get you on, have a catch up and share your story as well. So just before I finish, you know, it's been really kind of great to catch up with people. I always try new concepts, new ideas, and see what works. Sometimes these will be interviews where we kind of talk through people's businesses, probably people on the course where we go through the issues that they kind of face and stuff, what we're on. So it's 9:27. And actually, you know, try and make this interactive, but likewise, if something interesting happens in the world, I will try and articulate it down into a nice segment, which can go onto YouTube, etc. The podcast and the interview series keeps going, but the next one is on Monday with Ian, so I really hope you kind of check this one out. If you miss any of them, you can get them on YouTube whenever you want. Just search for Steve Pugh Roadmap MBA, and hopefully you will find it. The classroom sessions are every Tuesday. Excuse me. The classroom sessions are every Tuesday, 3 till 4 p.m. in the UK. What I'm also looking to do, as I'm trying to build the brand and that kind of thing, is to account for India and also the US, maybe doing some early morning sessions and late night sessions as well, just to really make it accessible to a lot of people. And the other beauty of it is that as the course is just kind of starting to get going, if there's only 4 or 5 people on each call, what that does, it just allows me to serve you better and give you a better service. So actually, it's a good thing to kind of get involved early. If you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Have a fantastic weekend if I don't speak to you before. Sanat and Ajuro, I really would like to get you onto the interview series and just kind of pick your brains and help you share your story. And actually, after Ian, I've also got a whole range of other speakers, which, you know, I can't wait to talk about as well. So thank you for your time. I hope today was interesting. If you've got any questions, please feel free to send them in, and hopefully speak to you soon. All right, cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.